What you're looking at right now is pre-alpha gameplay of the next Battlefield game set to release at the end of this year. And even though it was brief and really short and a lot of camera shaking, the big impression for me is I'm gonna have to upgrade my 3080 graphics card because damn. They also announced a major change when it comes to the development at Battlefield of renaming all the studios combined as Battlefield Studios, with DICE leading the multiplayer, which is taking part of the destruction, core systems of the game, and mechanics, so kind of just like the DNA of the whole thing. Motive helping to make multiplayer maps and single player mission content. And then you have Ripple Effect and Criterion helping out just being support studios, which I think we have a little extra information to share with you guys when it comes to what those studios are going to be doing, and it's not quite announced yet. And they announced an entire play test system called Battlefield Labs, giving you a chance to jump in and play the game to help build the next Battlefield with community feedback. Now, of course, I did sign up for that, but it also came with a survey, which I think had some interesting aspects we can look into about what Battlefield is prioritizing when it comes to the development of Battlefield this year. So if you want to know more, stay tuned throughout the whole video to understand all the details. So first we gotta talk about that gameplay. I was not expecting to get that today. I'll slow this down on YouTube by 25% so you guys can kind of get a better glimpse of what exactly is happening. And everything I'm seeing here looks pretty nice. If anything, this kind of looks rather reminiscent of like Strike at Karkan when it comes to this map style at least. Can't confirm that right off the rip, but looks very Karkan-like, which this game is taking a big influence from Battlefield 3 and 4. Both those games had Karkan in those games. Now we do see some destruction, we do see some gameplay. One thing I really noticed is like the animation quality, and of course like the cinematicness of the whole thing, and like the level of destruction when like so you're shooting this RPG and like half the front of the building falls down. It's kind of wild. Now I'm sure most of it is for cinematic effect, right? Because we're taking a look at just like how cool everything can look. But take a look at this section right here where this grenade or some kind of explosion happens right in front of the player. And you can see how much the camera shakes right from that. Now, that definitely could just be for cinematic effect because we are looking more of like a visual representation of what the vibe would be like. But we see another game that does camera shake very well. It gives you that impact of what happens when an explosion happens near you. And that game is Helldivers 2. I feel like they do a really great job of really capturing that cinematic feel of when like a big explosion happens. It really creates a camera shake that really moves you around. It really makes you feel that impact through just watching it on the screen. Now, from this, I even saw it just look, from my experience, it seems even crazier, but from what we saw from this trailer, that it really actually seems a bit more intense. So you can see how much shake is happening there. Now, hopefully this is something you can turn off the screen or maybe even just have it be in the settings. But yeah, like camera shake is a really cool thing, but can also be really detrimental when it comes to multiplayer gameplay. And like I mentioned at the top of this video, animation quality, you can see like when there's an explosion that happens right about the right side here on the screen, you'll see this character kind of flinch or kind of react to it as well. Really kind of give you that immersive feeling. You see how much they bend down. It looks kind of awkward right now, but you know, pre-alpha gameplay, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about, how they're really kind of putting their head down, running through these explosions. It really kind of makes it so then like not only do you feel it, but everyone else is feeling like right here as well. You can see when this explosion goes off, that these characters do react to it as well. Like they kind of have a shockwave effect that hits them. So maybe that might even be like some kind of knockdown mechanic. Of course, these explosions are happening right next to them. So I can see that being a bit annoying if that does happen. Now, do we see a little bit of like magic of editing right here where we see like this gigantic explosion that happens on top of this building, and that's when you get a chance to check out the different types of destruction that happen. And this is going to be pretty intense, right? Like before, like we see like Battlefield has very like structured type of destruction, right? Where like, you know, whatever kind of stuff they want you to destroy, you can. But this is like again straight out like Strike at Karkan, that map, where like pretty much all the buildings in that map are destructive and you can like level things down completely. It's kind of like Battlefield Bad Company 2 style, which is, I know a lot of people loved that type of destruction. There's some give and takes with that, obviously, but what was the one big thing that they really wanted to showcase within this entire trailer or reveal was the level of destruction that they are able to accomplish now. Again, this is what DICE is doing mainly for the team. Like, again, check out this one RPG, shoots right here, and even this part of the building collapses first, and then since this part of the building is collapsing, then that collapses as well. So it kind of creates a bit of a chain reaction that happens right there. So it's pretty interesting to see like the little details that we see within this entire thing. Could this be Karkan? I don't really recognize many of these buildings. I played a lot of Battlefield 3 and 4 back in the day, so I think it's gonna be a map that's kind of reminiscent of it, but not exactly the same thing. Now let's talk about the combined arms strategy that EA is taking with the next Battlefield game, calling all these studios under one umbrella called Battlefield Studios. Now, anyone familiar with this channel might think that name sounds a little familiar, as in Halo Studios was recently rebranded to that back in October, at least the reveal was. So it's kind of funny how like Battlefield's like, dang it, why did Halo have to do it first? And like we stated earlier, that DICE will be working on the multiplayer destruction and the core systems of the game. So kind of being like the main developer that kind of sets up what the next Battlefield is going to be and kind of help these external studios kind of build things up together. Kind of similar to what we see with the Call of Duty model, right, over at Activision, where you have the three main studios of Sledgehammer, Treyarch, and Infinity Ward, and then you have surrounding support studios to either help out with the Battle Royale, PC ports, and various other parts. And you had Motive join up with Battlefield earlier this year, as it was announced in a blog a couple months ago, if you guys remember correctly. And also that they mentioned how like Motive sounds familiar, right? Yeah, they worked on Dead Space and Star Wars Squadrons, which Star Wars Squadrons was a really in-depth flying sim type of game, which maybe they could bring that to the mechanics of flying in Battlefield, because flying jets and helicopters in the game have always been a little difficult, and if anything, they got more difficult in more recent years. But then you had Ripple Effect and Criterion just kind of saying, hey, we're here to help support. Now, why would you need two dedicated studios just to support the game when you have a full-on multiplayer team and a full-on campaign team? Well, that one studio, Ripple Effect, seems to have a little bit of an ace up their sleeve that hasn't been announced yet, as in, we do know that from leaks and rumors that Battlefield is currently working on a Warzone-like Battle Royale mode, and Ripple Effect are the team that's going to be mainly focusing on the new experience, as reports say, when it comes to free-to-play like Battle Royale, something akin to Warzone. Now, of course, Battlefield tried doing a Battle Royale mode previously, right, with Firestorm, but it just kind of flopped, and I think mainly it's because you sold the game one at full price that came with the Battle Royale mode, where all the other Battle Royales out there that are competing with each other are free to play. So I'm assuming that this would have to be a free to play model. I could not imagine EA making the same mistakes that they did with Firestorm, which from all accounts that Firestorm was actually a good Battle Royale game, right? It had cool destruction like Battlefield. It had a large scale mode that, you know, with all the different players you can have in the same kind of thing. The main thing that was holding it back though was the price point, right? And the fact that most people buy into Battlefield for like the Rush game mode, for the Conquest game mode, and don't really get into Battle Royale a whole lot. It would seem a bit, I don't know, old at this point to make a Battle Royale game for Battlefield at this point, right? Since the trend is kind of come and gone and now it's not really as exciting anymore. But it could be something that would be interesting to see what Battlefield's take on it could be, right? With emphasis on vehicle gameplay, destruction being a thing that we don't really see much in any other Battle Royale games. So this could be some aspect where Battlefield has the opportunity to stand out amongst the crowd. Now again, like there are no words if it's going to be free to play. I would just think they would have to be, given the fact of how Firestorm really flopped for them, even though it was a good Battle Royale mode. Now this all might sound awesome, right? Like, oh god, this is everything I wanted for a Battlefield game, right? Going back to the Battlefield 3, 4 type of game, all these new people coming in and being such a great experience. What could go wrong? Well, apparently a lot, because I'm a little concerned because there's a former DICE dev out here who's actually went on to Blue Sky and kind of went on a little bit of a rant talking about the current experience of people making this next Battlefield game, and how they even called some of the people that are working there corpos, which is not a good thing to hear when it comes to EA. And also how many of the people who made Battlefield, right, that talent that's been there for a long time, well, most of them are gone now. They've gone to either work on the finals, which is a fun game. A lot of former devs went over to work over there. And also another group created their own studio called TTK Studios or Games or something like that. So the original DICE team is kind of gone. This Reddit post helps summarize everything that the DICE dev had to say, and said, according to the DICE dev himself, that 98% of the people making this Battlefield game did not work on previous Battlefield games, which, I mean, according to the trailers that we saw, definitely didn't seem to be the case. But of course, you know, people come and go, especially with the insane amount of layouts that we have seen within the game industry in the last few years, that this definitely could be the case. I mean, a lot of the faces that we saw in this trailer, I don't recognize any of these people in this trailer. And if anyone I do recognize, I recognize them from other games, specifically Vince Zampella from like Apex Legends and the Call of Duty franchise. So that could be a bit of truth when it comes to this entire thing. So I'm a little concerned, but also kind of looking forward to seeing what they can pull off, right? If they can get that Battlefield 3 and 4 vibe back into Battlefield, right? They're not going with operators, just going back to like the classic 64 player multiplayer style and stuff like that. So could be really exciting. There's a lot of potential here. I just really hope that they don't go full EA with this thing and just try to piece out all the type of microtransactions to recoup costs and things like that. But hey man, you know, it is 2025. I'm still very much looking forward to this game. I'll definitely cover it more here on the channel. And this former DICE dev who worked on Battlefield really goes in talking about like the details of like what that experience could be and like how they're gonna be doing like live service slop, right, in a free-to-play Warzone like mode as well, and things like that coming for the game. So there are a lot of different bits of concern that are happening when it comes to this game, at least. So I'm not getting fully hyped up for it, but I mean, it's EA. You always have to have everything like with a grain of salt, or just kind of distance yourself a little bit from your hype because of it being potentially something that could be way worse than you ever expected. I mean, we were all hyped for Battlefield 2042 and we saw how that game turned out. Now you can sign up to play this early with Battlefield Labs, which of course I definitely signed up for that because, well, I'm a bit of a Battlefield fanboy. There's a really interesting thing though, that when you do fill out this information, it just kind of gives your account so they can email, contact you and stuff like that. But there's an optional survey you can fill in which has some really interesting details I think we need to talk about. Now I put everything in a Word doc here so that we can just have an easier chance to look at everything here. So one of them is just please select a genre that you like to play on console or PC. And they mentioned pretty much all the major ones, but the top ones they put up here were like shooters and battle royales, the top two that they put up there. Interestingly enough though, they mentioned like Call of Duty being a shooter and then Splatoon in there, as well as Apex Legends as a shooter, not under battle royales. And of course they mentioned PUBG and Call of Duty Warzone for the battle royale stuff. So that kind of should give you a bit of an idea of like what kind of expectations you should have when it comes to like this potential battle royale mode that's gonna be very much rooted in military style, right? Then they ask you which of the following games have you ever played more than 10 hours, and they mentioned Call of Duty, Fortnite, older Battlefield titles like Call of Duty, Battlefield. They even mentioned the finals. Even, hey, Halo Infinite got mentioned. So hey, we're in this crowd too, everybody. And you basically just have to check off which ones that you marked for, right? But they mentioned Tarkov in here, a lot of Battlefield mentions, a lot of Call of Duty mentions. They even mentioned Overwatch a little bit in here because I think it's just more just one of those popular shooters, even Counter-Strike as well. But you kind of seen like what they're going for, right? Now they do also ask what platforms do you play video games on, everything from the PS4, 5, Xbox One even. They got Nintendo, the Wii U is on here. I wonder if they're just trying to weed out people who actually don't want or have the ability to play, but like they literally mention every major platform out there, even smartphones. So that's gonna be interesting. I remember like Battlefield 4 had the commander mode, which I believe you could play on a tablet, which was kind of interesting, right? So if you made this far in the video, I hope I earned your like, maybe even a subscribe. And if you want to know who the real ones are who made it all the way to the end, leave a green heart. Now, so I'll make sure to like all those comments out there as well. But thank you all for watching. Greatly appreciate it. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.